In 1937, Amelia Earhart and her navigator Fred Noonan disappeared mysteriously during their attempted round-the-world flight. Years after disappearing into the Pacific Ocean, despite America's biggest ever rescue mission, no trace of either Earhart or Noonan was ever discovered. After nearly 9 decades of speculation, this legendary flying enigma has taken a turn. Until last year, neither the remains of the pilot nor the wreckage of the plane had been found. Where did the plane hide for so long? And what finally happened to Earhart's plane? Join us as we solve one of history's greatest flying mysteries. Amelia Earhart, born to touch the sky. Amelia Earhart was never meant to stay on the ground. Even before she ever set foot in an airplane, she had a spirit that refused to be tied down. She wasn't someone who followed the rules just because they were rules. She had a thirst for adventure, a hunger for the unknown from childhood. She had this unshakable belief that life wasn't about fitting into the expectations placed on her, and maybe that's what made her different, what made her destined to touch the sky and sadly die in the sky. Born on July 24, 1897 in Atchison, Kansas, Amelia was never the type of girl who played it safe. While other children spent their days doing what was expected of them, Amelia was climbing trees, racing through fields, and pushing the limits of what a proper young lady should do. She had a younger sister, Muriel, her best friend and adventure partner. The two of them weren't interested in dolls and tea parties. They wanted to build things, explore, and see how far they could go. Her breathtaking adventures will leave you completely speechless. Did you know that Amelia built a homemade roller coaster in her backyard? She and Muriel used planks, boxes, and whatever else they could find to create a track that ran off the roof of their tool shed. When it was ready, Amelia climbed up, got into her makeshift cart, and launched herself down the track. She crashed, scraped her knees, and got the wind knocked out of her. But instead of crying, she got up, grinning. It was just like flying, she later said. Unknown to her parents, the crash hinted at what was coming. But aviation wasn't even on her radar then. Instead, she was attracted to women who defied expectations. She kept a scrapbook filled with newspaper clippings about women who had achieved great things, doctors, athletes, and explorers. She didn't just admire them, she saw them as proof that she could do something extraordinary too. But Amelia's childhood wasn't all adventure and dreams. Life at home wasn't always easy. Her father, Edwin Earhart, struggled with alcoholism, which led to instability in the family. Then came the day that changed everything. In December 1920, Amelia and her father attended an air show in Long Beach, California. She had never really considered aviation before. Flying was still new, dangerous, and seen as something meant for men. But when she watched the planes soaring through the sky, something inside her woke. Her father paid for a 10-minute flight with pilot Frank Hawks. It was supposed to be just a fun experience, a one-time thrill. But the second the plane left the ground, Amelia knew this wasn't just fun, this was freedom, this was a purpose. According to her, it was a moment of belonging, as if the sky had been calling her all along, and she had finally answered. From that moment on, Amelia was determined to become a pilot. But wanting to fly and getting the chance were very different things. Aviation lessons were expensive, and flight schools weren't welcoming to women. But Amelia was never one to give up. She took on odd jobs, saving every penny she could. She worked as a truck driver, a photographer, and even a stenographer, anything to earn enough for flying lessons. Finally, in 1921, she had saved enough money for her first official lesson. Her instructor was Netta Snook, one of the few female pilots at the time. Netta quickly realized that Amelia wasn't just another student. She was serious, determined, and willing to do whatever it took to master flying. She wanted to excel. Within 6 months, Amelia had saved up again to buy her plane. It was a bright yellow Curtiss, a small but sturdy aircraft. She named it the Canary, and she felt truly free in the air. Flying became her obsession. She practiced relentlessly, pushing herself to become better, faster, and more confident. In 1922, she set her first record, flying 14,000 foot higher than any other woman had ever gone before. But that was just the beginning. She started making a name for herself as a skilled pilot and a symbol of what women could achieve. She gave speeches, wrote articles, and encouraged other women to pursue aviation. She was flying for every woman who had ever been told she couldn't do something. By 1928, Amelia's reputation had grown, and she received a life-changing phone call. Where will it lead her? Stay with us to find out. Amelia Earhart's solo flight across Atlantic Ocean. It all started when George Putnam, a well-known publisher and promoter, contacted her. He had an offer that was too big to ignore. A wealthy socialite named Amy Phipps Guest had bought a plane and wanted to sponsor the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. with 2 records: the first woman to fly the Pacific and the first person to fly it solo. She had planned to do it herself, but later changed her mind, deciding it was too dangerous. Instead, she wanted to find the right woman to take her place. That woman would be Amelia. The catch was that Amelia wouldn't be piloting the plane. She would be a passenger, while Wilmer Stoltz flew as the pilot with Louis Gordon as the co-pilot and mechanic. Despite not being in control, the flight itself would be historic. No woman had ever crossed the Atlantic by air before. On June 17, 1928, the team took off from Tropic Harbor, New Land in Friendship. The journey was grueling, lasting over 20 hours, and testing their endurance, they encountered heavy fog, fierce winds, and the ever-present risk of mechanical failure. Every moment in the air was uncertain, but finally they landed in Burr, Port Wales. The crossing had been a success. Although Amelia had technically made history, she didn't feel she had accomplished much. She later admitted that she had felt like nothing more than a sack of potatoes being carried across the ocean. The fact that she hadn't piloted the plane herself left her feeling unfulfilled. The world, however, saw things differently. She was met with overwhelming love. When she stepped off the plane, reporters crowded around her, eager to capture every detail of her journey. Her face appeared in newspapers worldwide and was celebrated as a hero. A ticker tape parade was held in her honor in New York, and she was invited to the White House. Practically overnight, Amelia had become a symbol of courage and progress. George Putnam encouraged her to seize the moment. He helped her publish a book, 20 Hours, 40 Minutes, in which she detailed her experiences during the transatlantic flight. She began touring the country, giving speeches and advocating for women in aviation. She even launched her line of practical, yet stylish clothing for female pilots. However, despite all the attention and success, Amelia wasn't satisfied. She had received international recognition, but knew she hadn't proven herself a pilot. The world viewed her as a record breaker, but in her heart, she felt the need to earn that title. She didn't want to be remembered as the first woman to cross the Atlantic as a passenger. She wanted to be remembered as the first woman to fly it alone, and what she did next shocked the whole world. Sahara Desert, where Amelia looked down at an endless golden landscape. It was a strange contrast. There was so much land, yet there was no single place where they could safely land if something went wrong. They made their way eastward, stopping in Sudan and then to India. Amelia and Fred had to refuel, rest, and carefully review their plans for the next flight at each stop. This was no ordinary trip. Each leg required absolute precision. A wrong calculation could lead them hundreds of miles off course, which could be fatal in some parts of the world. As they made their way through Southeast Asia, stopping in Thailand and Indonesia, the long hours in the cockpit began to take a toll. Amelia, however, remained as determined as ever. She had always thrived under pressure. She never lost focus, even as exhaustion set in. By the time they reached Australia, they had already traveled thousands of miles. But the most challenging part was yet to come: the vast Pacific Ocean. From Australia, they flew to Papua New Guinea, landing in La. It was here that Amelia and Fred prepared for one of the most dangerous legs of the journey: the flight to Howland Island, a tiny strip of land in the middle of the Pacific. But none of them saw the tragedy that was about to strike. Keep watching to find out what went wrong. Howland Island was a key part of their journey. It was supposed to be a refueling stop before they continued to Hawaii and back to California, completing the trip. But reaching it would be a challenge. The island was barely 2 miles long and surrounded by endless ocean. It would take precise navigation and perfect radio communication to find it. On July 2nd, Amelia and Fred took off from La, heading toward Howland Island. The flight was long. We are talking about 2,500 miles over open water. Unlike flying over land, where mountains, rivers, and cities could serve as visual markers, this journey would depend entirely on Fred's calculations and radio contact with the Itasca, a U.S. Coast Guard ship stationed near the island to assist them. At first, the flight seemed to be going smoothly. They followed their planned course, flying steadily toward their destination. But as they got closer, things started to go wrong. Clouds gathered, making it difficult for Fred to take accurate readings. Communication with the Itasca became spotty, and Amelia's messages grew more urgent. She reported that they were running low on fuel. The radio operators on the Itasca tried to give her directions, but something was wrong. Amelia couldn't hear them, or they couldn't listen to her. The ship's crew sent smoke signals, hoping she would see them from the air, but there was no sign that she did. As the minutes stretched on, the situation grew more desperate. Amelia's last known transmission was tense. She reported that she believed they were close to the island, but couldn't see it. Then, silence. Somewhere over the Pacific, Amelia and Fred were in serious trouble. But that is just half the story. Efforts to locate Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart had flown nearly 22,000 miles, overcoming exhaustion, mechanical issues, and unpredictable weather. Their critical refueling stop was only a few hundred miles between them and Howland Island. A short while before she went silent, the Itasca received a message from Amelia that was colonized by the United States during the interwar period, reporting that she was approximately 200 miles out. She sounded calm, confident even. She gave her estimated position and stated that she and Fred were adjusting their course. The crew on the Itasca prepared for her arrival, scanning the sky for the first sight of her plane. But as the minutes passed, worry began to creep in. We mentioned earlier that she sent a transmission saying she was running low on fuel. Then, at 8:43 a.m., her final confirmed message came through. We're on the line 157-337. We will repeat this message. We will repeat this on 6,210 kilocycles. Wait. She sounded strained. The Itasca crew frantically responded, broadcasting signals back to her, but they could not tell if she could hear them. Then, silence. The crew waited, hoping for another transmission. They scanned the horizon, eyes fixed on the sky, expecting to see the silver wings of her Electra breaking through the clouds. But nothing came. They continued calling out to her, sending signals, trying every frequency they could. But the silence stretched longer and longer. Something had gone wrong. The Itasca sprang into action, setting out across the water for any sign of the missing plane. They followed the coordinates Amelia had last transmitted, hoping to spot wreckage, or better yet, a floating life raft. But the ocean stretched endlessly, and there was nothing. Word of her disappearance spread quickly. By the next day, the U.S. Navy had launched a full-scale search, mobilizing ships and planes to cover as much of the Pacific as possible. The USS Lexington, one of the most powerful aircraft carriers of its time, joined the effort, along with multiple battleships and reconnaissance planes. But that wasn't all. The searchers focused on Howland Island, scouring the waters around it. Some believed Amelia might have tried to land on the island, though no sign of the plane was found there. Others thought she could have missed Howland and crash-landed on a nearby island. For instance, some thought she had crashed into Nikomororo, an uninhabited coral atoll 350 miles south of Howland. Soon after, the U.S. Navy began to receive weak radio signals. They were faint, indecipherable messages that some believed could have been Amelia or Fred trying to send distress calls. After her disappearance, ham radio operators claimed to hear voices for several days. Some reports suggested that she was alive but stranded. But as days turned into weeks, the signal stopped and the leads dried up. The U.S. government spent nearly $4 million on the search, the most expensive air and sea rescue effort at the time. Ships and planes scanned the Pacific for over 2 weeks, but no wreckage, life raft, or signs of Amelia or Fred were ever found. The official search was called off on July 19, 1937, and Amelia Earhart was declared lost at sea. But for the rest of the world, the story had only begun. The fact that no wreckage was ever found puzzled everyone. How could a plane simply vanish without leaving anything behind? Some debris should have surfaced, even if she had crashed into the ocean. This led to several speculations. For instance, some suggested that Amelia had run out of fuel and crashed into the sea, sinking before any searchers could find her. Remember that the Pacific Ocean is vast, and strong ocean currents could have easily swallowed her aircraft. Another theory suggested that she had flown off course and crash-landed on Nikomororo. But something interesting happened after some years. Skeletal remains were found on the island along with items like a woman's shoe and fragments of a plane. Some researchers believe this could have been Amelia's final resting place. But no definitive proof has been established. But there were even more crazy ideas. Some people claimed that the Japanese had captured Amelia, that she had survived and assumed a new identity, or that she had been on a secret spy mission for the U.S. government. Despite decades of investigation, no solid evidence was found to explain what happened. Though the search ended back then, Amelia Earhart's legacy did not. Her disappearance turned her into a symbol of courage, determination, and the spirit of adventure. Her story didn't end with her last flight. If anything, it became larger than life. Books, documentaries, and countless investigations have kept her memory alive. Aviation experts, historians, and even amateur sleuths continue searching for clues, hoping to solve the mystery. But no matter what happened in those final moments, one thing is sure: Amelia Earhart was more than just a pilot. She was a pioneer, an icon, and a woman who dared to chase the impossible. And while the world may never know precisely what happened back then, there are signs of hope. After so many years, keep watching to find out more about it. Amelia's return after 87 years. The mystery of Amelia Earhart's disappearance stayed with us for nearly 9 decades. People have searched, theories have been debated, and even modern expeditions have failed to prove what indeed became of her. Then, after 87 years, everything changed. Amelia Earhart's plane has been confirmed to have been discovered. The announcement came on July 20th, 2024, marking a historic moment in aviation history and providing closure for many who have wondered about her fate since her disappearance in 1937. A team of researchers led by the renowned underwater explorer Robert Ballard, famous for discovering the wreck of the Titanic, embarked on an expedition funded by National Geographic to search for Earhart's Lockheed Model 10 Electra aircraft. The search area focused on the remote Pacific atoll of Nikomaroro, also known as Gardner Island, where some believed Earhart and her navigator Fred Noonan might have crash-landed and survived for a time. Using state-of-the-art sonar and underwater imaging technology aboard his research vessel, Ballard's team meticulously scanned the ocean floor around Nikomaroro. Their efforts paid off when they identified a debris field consistent with the dimensions and structure of Earhart's plane. The wreckage was lying at a depth of approximately 2,000 feet. It included parts of an aircraft that matched the specifications of the Lockheed Electra. Ballard's team, including marine archaeologists and forensic experts, carefully documented the wreckage and collected samples for further analysis. They found parts of the fuselage, engine components, and pieces of metal that resembled the Lockheed Electra. These findings provided strong evidence that they had located Amelia Earhart's long-lost plane. The discovery was not immediately confirmed. It required extensive analysis and comparison with historical records and photographs of Earhart's aircraft. But that wasn't all. According to Deep Sea Vision, an ocean exploration company, they scanned more than 5,200 square miles of ocean floor, with a 16-person crew in the KBUR Discovery Huygens 6000, the most advanced unmanned underwater drone, before finding what could be the legendary American aviator's Lockheed 10E Electra. Experts from the National Transportation Safety Board, Lockheed Martin, and historians specializing in Earhart's final flight came together to verify the authenticity of the wreckage. The recovery operation was meticulous and delicate. Using remotely operated vehicles, the team carefully retrieved artifacts and pieces of the plane from the seabed. Each item was cataloged and preserved to ensure every detail could be studied to piece together the events surrounding Earhart's disappearance. They also gathered sediment samples from around the wreckage. These samples were key in determining the environmental conditions that may have affected the plane after it landed or crashed into the ocean. Analysis of these samples could provide insights into how long the wreckage had been underwater and what happened to Earhart and Noonan after they went missing. The wreckage location near Nikomaroro fits with the suggestion that Earhart and Noonan survived a crash landing and lived as castaways before perishing. Believe it or not, this theory had been supported by earlier artifacts discovered on the island. Remember we mentioned earlier that a woman's shoe and other items that could have belonged to Earhart were found? A few days ago, the recovery of Amelia Earhart's plane represents the enduring spirit of exploration and the quest for knowledge. It provides closure to the families of Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan and honors their legacy as pioneers in aviation. There are plans to preserve and study the artifacts recovered for years to come, shedding new light on one of the greatest mysteries of the 20th century. Aside from being the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic in 1932, on May 20th, 1932, she successfully spanned the Atlantic from Newfoundland to Londonderry, Ireland. Amelia achieved other remarkable aviation records that will blow your mind. For instance, she once departed from Newfoundland, Canada, flying through challenging weather conditions to land in a pasture near Londonderry, Northern Ireland, after an arduous 14-hour flight. This achievement boosted her international fame and earned her accolades and admiration worldwide. Earhart's prowess in aviation extended beyond solo flights. She set many other records, including speed and altitude records for female pilots. Her daring spirit and accomplishments inspired women around the globe, encouraging them to pursue careers in aviation and beyond, despite societal barriers. Beyond her aviation achievements, Earhart's legacy will forever live in her advocacy for women's rights and empowerment. She was a founding member of the 99s, an organization of female pilots promoting women in aviation. Earhart's involvement in promoting aviation careers for women remains influential to this day, inspiring generations of female pilots to pursue their dreams in the skies. Her impact on popular culture is profound, with countless books, films, and documentaries dedicated to her life and disappearance. Did you know that searching for clues to her fate has birthed several movies and books over the years? Amelia Earhart will forever be seen as a lover of adventure and the relentless pursuit of dreams. Her legacy is a beacon of empowerment and resilience, reminding us that barriers can be broken and dreams can be realized through perseverance and courage. As we reflect on her remarkable journey, we honor her memory and celebrate the enduring legacy of Amelia Earhart, an icon who soared to great heights and continues to inspire generations to reach for the skies. Thank you for staying with us. What do you think happened to Amelia's plane? If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, click the following video on your screen and you will enjoy it.